Corpo de Cristo, guarda para a vida eterna.
A comforting hand, an embracing smile, and prayers.
Seu Deus, nosso Pai.
Father Bob Singelin bringing quiet words of consolation to an elderly woman, a typical sick call for a parish priest. But what makes this visit different is that this Detroit priest and his parishioners are located in Brazil.
It's very affirming to work here. It's a great spot. Kind of a secret, I think, but it's the best parish Detroit has.
In an open-air market, Father Harry Sikorsky brings the joy of his ministry directly to the people.
Thank you very much. I look at the church as being in the streets, where the people are. Community's already out there. In that market, there's already community.
For Sister Virginia Berry, that little bit of heaven can be found in the eyes of a child.
Now, something like this little preschool center, you know, the sense that little children will have a better beginning, you know, like they will develop as a person better because we open this. You sense God in that.
In the shadow of nearby crop fields, Sister Ann Nett is dispensing low-cost natural health remedies to farm workers who can't afford to buy over-the-counter medicines.
We try not only to provide medicines for people to use, you know, in terms of sickness or health problems, but we also try to participate on a political level.
In a parish chapel, clergy from the Archdiocese of Detroit are sharing sacraments in solidarity with the residents of Recife, Brazil, the poorest of the poor.
You know, you say this is a poor place and there's a lot of suffering, but there's great faith here and strength and love that helps people.
Without exaggeration, this is one inner-city parish belonging to the Archdiocese of Detroit unlike any other. For one thing, it's some 5,000 miles south of Michigan. It's even in another hemisphere. It has 7 chapels serving tens of thousands of Catholics packed into these hills here in northeast Brazil. And its outreach ministry can be seen anywhere and everywhere, from the streets to the schools, even to the nearby sugarcane fields. Hello, I'm Ned McGrath, telling you the story of the mission at Recife, Brazil, just by being here. One day at a time, the mission at Recife, a week in the life. Where is this South American city on a map? Recife is a busy port city in the South Atlantic, located in the northeast state of Pernambuco, home to nearly 1.5 million people. Its sister city to the north is Olinda, the cultural center of the area and home to stunning 17th century Dutch architecture. Your first impressions of the area can be a bit misleading. The modern buildings, the outdoor sculptures, the natural beauty. As for Recife, it's been called the Venice of Brazil for its many canals and bridges. But like most of Latin America, this is a story of distinct contrast between the wealthy few and the alarming number of poor men, women, and children. The gap between Brazil's rich and poor is the greatest of anywhere in the world. Many of Recife's poorest residents live in these hillsides, a densely packed neighborhood with homes no bigger or better appointed than the average American garage. The people here lack access to such basic services as medicine, clean water, and safe sewage systems. Pigs eat trash on the same streets where kids play pickup games of soccer.
Oh, well, I suppose in the States you would call it a slum, but here it's just a neighborhood. People live here because when this place started up, probably about 50 years ago, it was just empty space that nobody wanted. It was on the edge of town in the hills. Population was the other side of the nearest street, and then people started moving out here because there was space, and because poor people tend to gather in the same places. The population here grows much more quickly, and they're about maybe between 4,000 and 5,000 people move in every year in this general area, so that the population has always been growing.
Father Bob Singelin has been ministering to this growing population of people for over 30 years. The parish serves upward of 200,000 people. They come together in modest worship spaces in the heart of Recife's congested neighborhoods. The Mass is celebrated in the native language, Portuguese.
The more aware we are of how we are one with others, gives us strength in many ways, in many things we do. It's the sense of being alone or isolated or on your own, or somehow that someone isn't caring about you. That's a great poverty for anybody, and to be able to know that they're part of a communion of those who believe in Him and have the same faith and the same love. It's the same love for God that we have in ourselves and for each other.
Catholic missionaries have been in this part of the world for some 500 years. In Brazil today, 90% of the population would identify themselves as Roman Catholics. In 1965, a small team of missionaries from the Detroit Archdiocese came to Brazil to establish a missionary relationship with the parish of Nossa Senhora de Lourdes, Our Lady of Lourdes. Two top leaders in the Catholic Church, worlds apart, were the catalyst for this unique association. In Recife, Archbishop Dom Elder Camara, and in Detroit, Cardinal John Dearden.
The Archdiocese made a commitment back after Vatican II that we wanted to establish a missionary relationship with another church in some other part of the world. And we looked at various options, and at that time Cardinal Dearden and those who did the decision-making came to the conclusion that Recife would be a very good spot. First of all, there was a close friendship between Cardinal Dearden and Archbishop Dom Elder Camara. Secondly, there was a sense that Recife was a lot like Detroit, a city of workers.
And, like Detroit, Recife is a city with great needs and problems, issues that can begin to be addressed with money and personnel.
A lot of people think of this Recife mission as something that's a drain on the Archdiocese, but in actuality, it's also a blessing for the Archdiocese because it is a resource for us. For instance, if we as a Church of Detroit came down here more often, we could get an experience like I've been having of what life is here for the people and come to understand our own faith and how we really are connected as a worldwide church. And the people here have something to give us, which is their joy, the simplicity, the focus that they have on the Lord, and the way that they don't have to get attached to material things.
To experience the real rhythm of life in Recife, you need to step out of the church and chapels and onto the congested streets, a jumbled mass of sights, smells, and sounds that overpower the senses.
Pescada.
On this day, the city's open-air market is once again the workplace for Father Harry Sikorsky, retired priest from Saginaw, a veteran of the missions in Latin America.
This is where the church is.
Father Harry is on his second volunteer assignment in Recife. He introduces welcome visitors from Detroit, Monsignor John Zenz and Father Tim LeBeau, to the food, the culture, and the beloved people of his street ministry.
Venha nós o vosso reino. The great discovery is the people who are really the people of God. And you begin to see when Jesus speaks of the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor are blessed, even now. Even in the middle of all the suffering, of all the tragedy, the victims of oppression. Quantos anos já está trabalhando aqui? She's already working here 3 years, which means there's a joy here that you find nowhere else in the world. And a spirit here of welcoming by the people, the spirit of a sense of affection and concern for you. You're really part of a family when you come here, and that's an amazing discovery.
Brazilians are amazingly hospitable people. They make room in small places for big crowds. They make room at small tables for big eaters. Our people are the warmest welcome you would find.
Beneath that joy is also great pain and the daily struggle for the most basic needs: food, clothes, jobs, housing, access to education and medicine. Addressing these massive problems is one of the greatest challenges of missionary work.
That's the big one. That's the big one. And that passage in Matthew where he says, whenever you saw someone who was hungry and you gave them to eat or thirsty, you gave them to drink, I was there. You were doing it with me. to me, for me. So I think it's being with the Lord. And when people are suffering, you're at their side. Maybe you can't do much, but at least you're at their side. And that's, for me, that's where it's at. It's about as much as I can do right now.
You wonder, when you call someone poor, if we ought to have layers of meaning. What is poverty? What does poor mean? And helping the poor with money is, resources are always important, but money is not the most important thing to think of when you're thinking of helping the poor. Putting money into programs where the poor would be able to contribute to what was going on and plan it and carry it off and then evaluate it together and then keep it going. That would be the kind of money that would be most helpful to them.
Another way to help people in need, the elimination of foreign debt. Brazil's economy is drained by the billions of dollars it owes in interest alone, money that could and should be used for social programs. At the Vatican, Pope John Paul II is aware of such issues. He has said, Christians will have to raise their voice on behalf of all the poor of the world, proposing the Jubilee as an appropriate time to give thought to reducing substantially, if not canceling outright, the international debt which seriously threatens the future of many nations.
The Jubilee movement, to try to forgive it, would have been a wonderful, wonderful step. Because it does affect the schools, the social system, the hospitals, the fact.
Attached to the Archdiocesan mission in Recife since the early 80s, Sister Virginia Berry, a New Yorker with the Sisters of St. Joseph from Long Island, now works primarily in education. In these beautiful young faces, she sees the future and confronts everyday reality.
You're here to walk with people, to accompany people, to share their burdens, to feel their sufferings, but to solve their problems. You know, it's just a pebble in the lake or something, you know. You help one person.
At this recently opened preschool, Sister Berry is trying to give kids a chance to succeed against impossible odds. Brazil's educational system is in shambles. Not enough books, high dropout rates, and widespread illiteracy.
You know, you see young people make it to high school and things like that. I mean, that's an achievement here, make it to high school. That's an achievement. You know, I remember the first time I met it, it was on this hill here. A child used the form of the Brazilian verb that would mean it's over. And he was about 10 years of age, and I asked him if he was studying, and he said to me, estudava, which meant it was over. Those moments are very, very deep when you sit back and think, 10 years of age and never going to study again. Yeah, it's, I think it's the quiet moments that you get to reflect and think about what's happening that you realize the gift. And the gift of our lives, you know, what we really have been handed.
In Recife, you will often find kids working in the marketplace rather than attending class. Many of them drop out of school before they reach the 3rd grade. In the midst of these children of poverty, the words of Mother Teresa help inspire Sister Berry's mission. We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with love.
You let another culture into you, you let other people into you, and you see this incredible suffering here. No, I've been moved, I've been changed. The entire thing has been a gift, absolute gift.
Sometimes the gifts come in the form of small triumphs, like the establishment of a ministry for the deaf.
This deaf boy that came to visit me just now was just elected the national president of the National Pastoral for the Deaf. Now he's there because somehow he was part of something here. And that's where the dream is. There's some connections.
There is a Catholic school within the parish operated by the Brazilian Franciscan Sisters of the Immaculate Conception. The summer Bible school classes provide valuable lessons for the students and good experience for the young religious ed teachers and catechists trained by Father Bob and his staff. Through prayers, songs, and morality plays, the students learn how the teachings of the Church can and should be taken back into the streets. The words of the late Archbishop Camara, let every word be the fruit of action and reflection.
One of the things we try and keep going all the time is the confirmation program, so that young people who are interested and able to come together and think about what does their faith mean and be committed to another celebration of a sacrament for action, for involvement. Our people's lives are the lives of the church. Even when they're, and our work is to try and help raise their awareness of that. That God's Word is alive in their life, and that God's sacraments are going on all the time.
While there is tremendous need for the outreach of the church in the congested streets of Recife, the hardships are even more severe for the people working in the mandioca fields, the sugar plantations. Cutting cane is part of the heritage of nearly every Brazilian family, and sugar has played a key role in the economy for 5 centuries. Today that role has been seriously diminished, especially here in northeast Brazil. A cane cutter earns only $3 a day, less than $100 a month. In the off-season, half of these workers will be unemployed. In the nearby town of Cabo, Sister Annette from the Monroe-based IHM community is committed to serving the poor in these remote areas, a commitment she made over 30 years ago.
Well, my roots are in Michigan, in Detroit. I come from a working class family, and I entered the congregation after having worked for a number of years. So I was older than some of my colleagues that entered the congregation. And I was always interested in working among the poor. And so after teaching for 3 years in the Michigan area, I went to Puerto Rico for 1 year, where I saw a lot of poverty in Puerto Rico, but I was still in the school system. But I expressed a desire to come to Brazil and to work with the Archdiocesan team here. And it was accepted, and I came in here in 1971.
Sister Annette has immersed herself in the history and the culture of this region. Through that discovery, she learned about medicinal plants that have been used for centuries to combat everything from headaches to infection. In an area that has little access to traditional health care or drugs, she has opened the Center for Natural Remedies.
This first item on the shelf is a syrup made from spearmint leaves and grain alcohol. And it's used. I'm the president of this organization and try to animate people to return to their roots, because a lot of them came from the rural areas in the interior. And they use plants, but sometimes when they come to the city, they think the medicines from the pharmacies are better. So we try to help them return to their roots to use medicinal plants. And we're producing some medicines which we hope to provide to the local government. And they can do it. They can either sell them to the people or give them to the people themselves.
For these dedicated missionaries, every day is a spiritual journey, from the cane fields to the overcrowded slums, even to the dirt playgrounds. For a young priest from Detroit like Father Tim LeBeau, Recife is not just about pilgrimage, it's about perspective.
Spiritually, well, as a place, it can certainly stretch you a little bit, because a lot of the things I'm used to in the United States, they don't have, and there's a lot of difficulties and that they deal with on a day-to-day basis that are hard to adjust to. But to find so much joy amidst what seems to be a lot of misery, I don't know, I guess shows me that God is everywhere, and sometimes in places we least expect it, we find Him most profoundly.
And sometimes finding that connection to God and people means getting into the game, literally.
I think I become a bit more approachable when they see me playing football with them, which is soccer, which is something they do all the time, and it's just a way of, I guess, bonding with them and having some fun.
Yeah, we were very happy. We didn't know he was coming to play, and it was very nice of him.
Father Tim made 2 trips to Recife during his seminary training. Back in Detroit, Monsignor John Zen served as Father LeBeau's spiritual advisor and priest mentor.
The experience for the seminarians for the last 5 years or so has been tremendous. And I know it's also enriched and strengthened Father Bob here, and knowing that his work is going to live on through them. The seminarians have come down here with a certain anxiety about germs and what will we be doing and what will happen to us. And they've really learned to love the people, and the people have developed a bond of love with them. And you can see it in the relationship with Father Tim LeBeau. And so many of the seminarians say it changed their life, it changed their perspective on what ministry is.
Within months of being ordained a priest, Father Tim LeBeau wanted to celebrate a Mass of Thanksgiving with the parishioners of Our Lady of Lourdes, and he wanted to share that experience with Monsignor Zenz. It was standing room only at the liturgy, filled with music and memories.
I think the people here are especially warm, and they just love you to death, I guess, and it's just that they don't have much, but they give you what they have, and I think what they give is what's really important. And I think it's that. It's just a real sense of love that they have for me that is what makes it so special to come back.
And that love also makes it hard for Father Tim to leave. The emotion on his face says everything about the connection this young priest made with the people of Recife.
Well, it's really hard to describe. It's just, I don't know, there's a lot of emotions that go with it, and the people just have such great love, and it's been such a great experience in my life for me, not only as now a priest, but as a person. The time I've spent with the people and everything, it's just, it's a bit overwhelming, actually.
Praying, singing, sharing with the people, that is the heart and soul of the mission at Recife. The late Dong Elder spoke of the experience of being with the underprivileged, the marginalized, how missionaries actually receive much more than they give. I have learned so much from those whom we call poor, the Archbishop said, but who, however, are rich in the Spirit of God.
I think to me my mission is walking with people. I've walked with the deaf, I've walked with the poor, I've walked with women's groups, and learning from them. You do learn. You do learn.
Prayer is power. Prayer is what keeps us going. But it's prayer in a real situation. You know, it's praying with people. It's praying not only for them, but as you suffer with them, you pray with them and ask God to be with us, Lord. Walk with us, and you'll give us the strength.
I think it started out with the United States thinking we're helping these people in a visible way, but the invisible return started flowing back rather quickly. Detroit, I think, has achieved a connection with the people in this diocese, the people in this parish, that has been a blessing for us, because it stimulates the mission of God's reign here on earth. And then it's a blessing for Detroit too, because just to be aware of how the church is a mission in the world, that it's part of our baptism to be interested in what's going on beyond our own immediate community, that we have opportunities, that this is an opportunity Detroit has to express that part of their baptismal reality.
The Archdiocese of Detroit has been here in northeast Brazil for over 3 decades, and yet one doesn't have to look too far to see how much more of God's work remains to be done. It's overwhelming, positively overwhelming. And yet that observation can be comforted by the insight and inspiration of the people who serve at the mission at Recife. It's really quite simple, they say. It's about being here. It's about being here. You can take the visitor out of the mission, but it's not quite as simple to take the mission out of the visitor. It was a privilege to come to this archdiocesan outpost, to be here with Father Bob Singelin, watching how faithfully he goes about the work he loves, receiving his gracious hospitality, witnessing his time spent in private prayer and reflection. It was an inspiration to watch Father Harry as he talked, laughed, and prayed with the people he considers family. What a lesson in social justice to be there in the classrooms with Sister Virginia Berry, to be reminded of how many children are robbed of their youth, of their futures. For many, that future is to labor in the fields of their ancestors. It is here you'll find Sister Annette going about the work of helping people help themselves. Among such pain and suffering, how remarkable to hear the testimony of local parishioners like Severina Oliveira, people who are gratefully served by the mission at Recife.
I get my strength from God, because He said, I came so that everybody will have life. So that's how I keep on living, I keep on fighting, because I just believe in God, and He gives me the strength I need.
And what an image to bring home, to remember forever. The old woman Father Bob Singland visited in her sickbed. The small bedroom said volumes about the hardship and struggle she faced in her life, bedbound for the past 4 years. But even now, near the end of that life, you could still see the power of God's love in her eyes, and how grateful she was to share that power with her friends and her parish priest, and how willing they were to return the gift.
Que Deus acompanhe sua saída, a sua entrada, de amor.
It's about being here. It's about being here.
E não